Welcome to the Dodgers Blue News channel. Before the news, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Now, let's get to the Dodgers news. Hey Dodgers fans. Today we are going to talk about the latest moves from our Dodgers. We start by talking about Shohei Ohtani, who is once again in the spotlight, and this time it is not just about his monumental swings or his extraordinary numbers this season. When the front office managed to bring Ohtani to Los Angeles as a free agent, leaving the Angels behind, we all knew that the road back to pitching would be long. Patience was the key word for months. But now, ladies and gentlemen, with October knocking at the door, we are seeing a possibility that few imagined at the start of the season. Mark Prior, our pitching coach, let something slip during an interview on the Dan Patrick Show this week that caught the attention of the entire Dodger Nation. Prior showed real optimism about using Ohtani out of the bullpen during the postseason. But pay attention to the details, because this would have to happen in a very specific scenario, where he would be recording the final outs of the game. Emma Lingen from Dodgers Way brought this story forward, and since then the debates have been heated. Now, here is the dilemma that keeps Dave Roberts and the entire coaching staff awake at night. There is a considerable downside to this strategy, and it involves exactly what makes Ohtani so special. Bob Nightingale from USA Today explained the situation clearly. If Ohtani comes in as a reliever during the postseason, he loses his spot in the lineup when it is his turn to bat. It is as simple as that. On the other hand, if he starts on the mound, he can remain in the game as the designated hitter after completing his pitching innings. Let's think about what this means in practice, folks. We are talking about taking one of the deadliest bats in all of Major League Baseball out of the game in a critical moment. Imagine a tight postseason situation where every at-bat could decide the fate of the series. Ohtani comes in from the bullpen, records a few outs, and then his turn in the batting order comes up. But he cannot go to the plate. That bat that has terrorized pitchers all season stays stuck in the dugout for the rest of the night. The risk is real, ladies and gentlemen. In October matchups, where every decision is amplified and every mistake can cost an entire season, this move could backfire spectacularly. That is why we are seeing so much caution coming from Chavez Ravine. The organization still has time before the postseason begins. They could, theoretically, test this scenario during the final games of the regular season to see how it plays out in practice. Ohtani, being the competitor we know, is willing to contribute in any way the team needs. But the math is simple. If he comes in late, loses his offensive presence, and can no longer help at the plate, the Dodgers may be creating a bigger problem than the one they were trying to solve. So here is the decision that Dave Roberts and Andrew Friedman need to make before October arrives. Do they want Ohtani closing games on the mound, recording crucial outs in the most tense moments of the postseason, but risking losing his devastating bat? Or do they prefer to make sure he is available in the lineup whenever his turn comes, keeping that constant threat that makes opponents rethink their strategies? This is the kind of decision that defines seasons, folks. The kind of call that will be analyzed and debated for years, depending on how it all plays out. The Dodgers have a rare gem in their hands, a player who can dominate both on the mound and at the plate. Now they need to figure out the best way to use that extraordinary talent when the October spotlight is at its brightest. Now let's shift the focus to another name that is making noise this postseason. We are talking about Roki Sasaki, the young Japanese right-hander who has had a roller coaster journey this season and who is now making his teammates stop and take notice. Sasaki's story this year has been anything but straightforward. When he returned from injury at the end of the regular season, the organization made an important decision. They pulled him from the starting rotation and placed him in the bullpen. And what has happened since then has been nothing short of impressive. Sasaki came in as a reliever twice against the Padres during the regular season. 2 innings of flawless work, 0 runs allowed. For strikeouts, the numbers began to speak for themselves. Alex Vizca, his fellow pitcher, picked up on something many may not have noticed. He talked about a different kind of confidence that Sasaki carries on the mound. Vizca said maybe it isn't talked about enough. The young pitcher believes in himself in a way that energizes the entire clubhouse. And Wednesday, well, that was a special performance. 101 miles per hour with some absolutely devastating breaking pitches. Vizca made it clear that Sasaki will be a key piece of this bullpen. And then came the final game of the wild card series against the Cincinnati Reds. Sasaki came in once again and dominated. One scoreless inning, 2 strikeouts. Clean work when the team needed it most. Max Muncy, our veteran third baseman, summed it up with a repeated word. Wow. Simply wow. And then he added what everyone in the dugout was thinking. This is exactly what this team needs. But let's give full context here, because Sasaki's season did not start out this way. When the Dodgers used him exclusively as a starter early in the year, the results were inconsistent. 8 starts, an ERA of 4.72, just 24 strikeouts in 35 and 1/3 innings. It was not what we expected to see. Then came the right shoulder injury, a month of rehab, and something changed during that stretch. When he returned, Sasaki was pitching with more ease, more fluidity. And crucially, he rediscovered his velocity, that velocity that had been a real concern during his time in the minors. Ben Rortvedt, who has to catch those balls coming in at over 100 miles per hour, put it perfectly. When you have to prepare for pitches at that speed and still adjust to a splitter like Sasaki's, well, Rortvedt is glad to be on the same side as him. The numbers since Sasaki's return are simply absurd. 9 outs, 6 of them strikeouts. A strikeout rate of 60%, which is nearly 4 times higher than his average before landing on the injured list. It is a complete transformation. Tanner Scott chose one word that sums it all up pretty directly. Nasty. That guy is nasty, said Scott. And now, as we move forward to the NLDS, the Dodgers have another weapon in the arsenal. Sasaki has proven he can handle the pressure of October. He has shown he belongs on this stage. The organization will continue to rely on him as the postseason progresses. The next challenge is right around the corner. The Philadelphia Phillies in the NLDS, starting Saturday at 3:38 p.m. Pacific Time. And now Dave Roberts has another high-voltage arm to use when the games get tight. This is the beauty of October, folks. Players find another level. Sasaki has found his at exactly the right time. And to close the news cycle, let's talk about a name that is circulating in the hallways of Los Angeles and generating serious conversations in the front office. We are talking about Nolan Arenado, the veteran third baseman of the St. Louis Cardinals with a $260 million contract and 8 All-Star Game selections on his resume. The situation in St. Louis is nothing new for those who follow baseball. The Cardinals and Arenado have been at the center of trade rumors since last season. You might remember when the Houston Astros almost closed a deal for him. Almost, but it didn't happen. Arenado remained in St. Louis for another season. Now, with the offseason around the corner, everything indicates that the Cardinals will finally prioritize moving him to a new team. And here's the important detail. They are willing to absorb part of the contract if that's what it takes to make the deal happen. Andrew Wright from Newsweek recently placed the Los Angeles Dodgers at the top of the list of realistic destinations for Arenado. And when you stop and think, it makes total sense. Wright got straight to the point. It is almost certain that Arenado will play elsewhere next season. The latest reports out of St. Louis suggest that he is willing to expand his list of teams to which he would approve a trade. And if that really happens, Los Angeles emerges as a very real possibility. We all know the aggressiveness of the Dodgers front office when it comes to building a winning roster. Andrew Friedman is not afraid to make bold moves. A trade that brings Arenado back to the National League West, the division where he spent the first 8 seasons of his career with the Colorado Rockies, would be exactly the type of move we expect from this organization. And here's the context that makes it even more interesting. Max Muncy, our regular third baseman, has been dealing with constant injuries. Those repeated absences could be enough for the organization to seriously consider using Muncy as part of a package to acquire a 10-time Gold Glove winner. Now, let's be clear about what this would mean in practice. Arenado wouldn't necessarily be an everyday starter here. No competitive team at this stage can afford to slot him in daily like in the old days. But he could form an effective platoon and play an absolutely crucial role in the Dodgers' defense. That Gold Glove isn't just for decoration. Arenado still knows how to lock down third base when the game is on the line. And here's where things get really intriguing from a financial perspective. If the Cardinals are willing to absorb a significant portion of the contract, or if they accept a prospect from our system to balance the numbers, the Dodgers would almost certainly be interested in making the deal. The Los Angeles payroll has never been a problem. This organization has repeatedly shown that it is not afraid to spend when it sees added value. Adding a veteran star with proven postseason credentials, even if it means more money on the books, is exactly the type of move that defines the Dodgers' philosophy. We're talking about adding experience, elite defense when needed, and depth at a position where injuries have been a constant concern. It's the kind of acquisition that can make the difference in a tight October series. Obviously, a lot still needs to come together. The Cardinals need to be willing to facilitate the deal financially. Arenado has to approve the trade, and the Dodgers front office needs to determine the right package to make it happen without compromising the future too much. But this is the offseason, folks. This is when big moves are made. This is when teams like the Dodgers look at the roster and ask how they can get even better. And Nolan Arenado, with all that experience and defensive pedigree, certainly represents a way to improve. Bringing a player of Nolan Arenado's caliber to Chavez Ravine would not just be about adding another name to the roster. It would mean bringing in a winning mentality forged in 13 big league seasons. It would put someone in the clubhouse who knows the pressure of October, who has made defensive plays that decide championships, who understands what it means to wear the uniform every day with the expectation of excellence. For the younger players on the roster, having Arenado around would be like having a living manual on how to carry yourself as an elite professional. The way he prepares, how he approaches every game, how he handles the ups and downs of a long season. That kind of influence doesn't show up in the box score, but it is felt in the dugout. Defensively, even if he's no longer the player who won those gold gloves year after year in his prime, Arenado still brings a game awareness that only comes with experience. He knows where to position himself. He knows when to take a risk and when to play it safe. Those split-second decisions that save runs in crucial moments. And from a tactical perspective, Dave Roberts would gain flexibility. He could rotate Arenado and Muncy depending on the matchup, the game situation, the history against a given pitcher. That's the luxury of roster management. That's the kind of depth that separates good teams from championship teams. So yes, we're not talking about the Arenado of years past, but we are talking about adding substance, experience, and quality at a time when every piece counts. And for a team with eyes always fixed on November, that kind of addition might be exactly what's missing. We'll be keeping an eye on this story as the offseason progresses. Because if there's one thing we've learned about this organization, it's that when Andrew Friedman sees an opportunity to improve the team, he doesn't hesitate to act. In the end, we have three distinct situations, but all pointing in the same direction. This organization is doing exactly what winning teams do. They are evaluating every piece on the board, considering every possibility, and not afraid to make tough decisions when necessary. With Ohtani, we see the courage to try something unprecedented, using the most talented player in baseball in a way that maximizes his impact in October, even knowing there are risks involved. That's calculated boldness. With Sasaki, we are witnessing transformation in real time. A young pitcher who found his place at the exact moment the team needed him most. He seized the opportunity with both hands. Now he is a legitimate weapon for this postseason run. And with the possible addition of Arenado, we see long-term strategic thinking, adding depth, experience, and defensive quality at a position where we have vulnerability. That's smart resource management. What connects all these stories is a clear philosophy. The Dodgers are not satisfied with just competing. They want to dominate. They want answers for every situation October might present. They want options when games get tight, and every decision could define an entire season. This is an organization that understands championships aren't won by accident. They are built through bold decisions, calculated risks, never settling with what you have when you can be better. Now we want to hear from you. What do you think? Of all the moves we've discussed here, which do you believe will be most decisive in winning the title? Ohtani in the bullpen, Sasaki dominating, or the possible arrival of Arenado? Leave your opinions in the comments. Until next time, Dodgers Nation.